Approach this is to get everyone to focus on their values. If you imagine the gentleman standing in the left panel, this is the way he feels his community should be, right or wrong, the act of creating place, active living, social retail, everything. I think he's on the right track, but I want to remind you that he's standing in Disney World. That world doesn't exist, except in a few rare places. If he was thinking more robustly, he'd be also thinking about diversity. And that across all of our demographics, people really do want the same thing. They just want cities they can live in, where they know their neighbors, where they feel secure, where their homes hold value, all of the right things. But if this is what he wants, this is what we got. We took our eye off of our values and started to focus on our cars. And virtually everything we build or design are built around the car. If you think about just what's across the street, an entire hospital, but no eyes on the street whatsoever. It's an interior mall. People, if they want to walk, they walk indoors around the mall in their health campus. Nothing wrong with that, but that leaves the street devoid of life. Add to that the super block of this facility, and there's really no real connectivity and hardly any eyes on this entire street. So we know we've made mistakes. We're the people who get the credit. I think we've got the greatest possibilities anyone could ever dream up. So I'd like to set a few visions for a framework. So if the street looks like this today, and all we're going to do is, in fact, maybe 3% of the cost of that road. Most of the cost is underground and other services. With everything you see here, we're adding value to not just the adjacent land, but for blocks back, as deep as one might imagine a 5-minute walk. And as we're doing this, we're finding out if we use the right principles, if we take the right approach, then we're adding not just value, we're bringing back health, and truly making our communities character-driven, noteworthy, and so on. But to carry these images a little further, notice the sign says to walk. There are sidewalks. There are even bike lanes, but no one is walking. This is the final approach to the high school in Maui. Now think about that. This is a place where they have really deep urban weather, and they cannot get people to walk because of a whole system failure. And now you hit this traffic stream about this time of morning, any morning for school day, you're going to sit there for 20 minutes. Because we only design for the success of one thing, all things fail, including the thing we designed. So I want to do a little bit of game plan here. Can everybody in the room pretend it's the 1400s? Can you? Yeah. Okay. Is this a correct view of our universe or our solar system? Is this correct? Of course it is. We know that. Along comes Galileo, Copernicus, and they say this can't be right. Mathematically, the solar system has to look like this. And they were told to shut up. And or the alternative was not going to be a pretty picture for them, right? So they did shut up for a while. And I'm going to propose something right now, more preposterous. So let's rewind the clock. It's now today. Is this a correct picture of our economy? I mean, it really is today, right? This is what we have done. We develop everything around these unworkable, unsustainable, non-resilient things that are failing us in every way, that the real picture, once we correct our thinking, is going to lead us around centering our communities on people. I could end my presentation right now and let you go out and just change, right? But you might want a few tools along the way, so I'll offer a couple. Number one, and this may be the big one, don't reward the long trip. Reward the short trip. Once we do that, we start putting the money in the right places, and we start doing the right things. And truly, this changed the whole dynamic, the whole picture. Reward the short trip. One of my very favorite politicians in the world, Enrique Peñalosa, really gets it right. And I think it's totally correct. You can design your cities for the car to be friendly or for people, but you can't do both. You just can't. And anyone who tries it, it's going to take a lot longer to make that discovery. So just accept on faith that you can't do both. But we can better support the car if we stop focusing on the car. And I'm absolutely serious about that. We'll shorten the trips for the car if we do the right things. So, and this is my way of saying the same thing. If you plan your cities for cars, you get more traffic. If you design for people, you get less traffic. The goal from here on out should be lowering the vehicle miles traveled as a nation, as a state, as a community, as a neighborhood. And as we do that, we're going to make more money, be more sustainable, more resilient, and much healthier. So, getting back to one of my greatest of heroines, I never got to hear her speak, but she wrote Death and Life of Great American Cities when I was still in high school. That's how far back her wonderful words go. But the point is, she's reminding us not to blame the car, to blame ourselves for not understanding the complexity of cities. So I want to get some of that across so that when you go to explain things to some folks that don't get it, that you can at least point out there are 16 layers you need to understand, but we have to bring everyone up to float all the ships with the same tide. Sault Ste. Marie, Michigan, the state of Michigan realized that there was no sidewalk here, and there was a serious problem because it was a major street for Sault Ste. Marie. So they went in and offered an evening workshop. 300 people came. 300 people came to oppose the sidewalk. They wanted to look rural. And they just have this assumption that when you have a sidewalk, you're no longer rural, you're urban. So I like to say we're conflicted. But we can solve that problem, but we have to solve it by bringing together and informing everyone at the same time. Otherwise, we lose our great politicians and then we start from scratch all over again. If I were to measure one way to assure success, it would be this. Stop measuring levels of service. 15 minutes a day designing everything around that 15-minute peak when everybody surges. Instead, measure for those things we value. The health of our children, our respect for our elders, our ability to go places and to do things, have mobile choice, everything. If that's in the beaker and we measure the progress for that, we're going to solve our level service problem. And it's not rocket science. Anyone in this room, I'm sure, can take a look at these two scenes. Oh my gosh, I would much rather walk in Hartford, West Hartford actually, than I would in Disney World, right? I mean, that's the series of streets, International Drive, that surrounds Disney World. This morning, I was able to capture these 5 essences. I think if we measure how we're doing for increasing the density in the neighborhood, in a downtown, how we're making better connectivity. By the way, the magic number for getting the right block perimeter to measure a new development, for example, is anywhere from 800 to probably as high as 2,100 feet in perimeter. If you get that, you're going to have enough intersections to keep the traffic speeds low. You're going to have enough routes that people have choices in where they walk to and how easily they get there. Everything has to be based on that. There's more important things with that compact, though, and I'll talk about that. The design, I want to feature that in this presentation. And then access. Access to everything for everyone. And I think we cover those, we've pretty well nailed it. All the rest will fall in line, I think, pretty well. So let's first of all celebrate that
you live in a state that built the first development in America. That's the word I have. It had open air, it had the density, it had the ability to connect to the Cheers bar, other bars, and delis, and banks, and hardwares, and florists, and transit, everything. Had we just stuck with it, we wouldn't be having the problems. We wouldn't have this conference. But instead, we built this. Here, you're 1,500 feet in front of nothing. You cannot walk. You can actually see the back end of the store, but you can't get there without about a 10-minute drive in the car. And so they have the sidewalks, but nobody's walking. And when you see what those houses look like in the front end, with the big garages, you probably realize why no one wants to walk in that neighborhood. Now, I want to start to talk about scale. One day, while I was working in Monterey, California, I came across this building. Just a quick question, how many units per acre? Just this building, how many units per acre do you see? Come up with a number, anybody?
24, 50, 40, 75. 120.
Well, it's 90. 90 units per acre. This is basically built over an old parking lot, 1/3 of 1 acre with 90 housing units. But it also happens to have a 6th Street movie theater, a delicatessen, a coffee shop, a large shoe store, and a tarot card reading shop. And you've got everything. There's your whole walkable scale. With the first priority for housing going to anyone who works for the city or the county. First right of refusal. Because this is a very expensive city, and they want to offer decent housing right in the heart of their community. So this is what density looks like. But it's not what people think, right? This could fit in almost any decent neighborhood. It really can. Now let's talk about connectivity. I offer an entire course on connectivity because I think it's so important. In Lockwood, and I do it. I'm going to take you to a neighborhood in London, Fitzrovia, and this is what they were planning to do: to bulldoze the heart of the neighborhood in order to build this freeway. The good people of London stopped it cold. The engineers, not understanding why it was stopped, are still exasperated that they couldn't move the traffic faster through this part of London. This is what they would have taken out. Not only some of the greatest names in human history, but very, very important things that occurred because of that compact, dense, well-connected neighborhood where people would just naturally gather on the street corners and the bars. There happen to be a couple great universities here as well. That always helps. But just think about what this country would feel like if we didn't have George Bernard Shaw, or the world for that matter, or Picasso, or any of these folks. This was the proving ground for ideas. And that's a huge part of what our city making is all about, is to get that right level of density and connectivity and everything, and stop focusing on speed, right? Now, let's get into the patterns, and this is why I want to really celebrate Massachusetts. This happens to be a small town in Florida, Fort Pierce. But as you can tell by the bottle dealer, this is circa a long, long time ago. And focusing on one building just so we have a reference point. There it is. But look at the street pattern. This town became this because they did what every town did, started to focus on the car. But starting about 20 years ago, the community came together to talk about walkability. And this is what that community looks like today. They had the right original bone structure, and so do you in so many of your communities. So you're way ahead of the game. Florida as a state is really going to be the tough one to save. We probably don't have to worry about it because it's going to be underwater. You know that. In every way, it's going to be underwater. I still got land that I can't sell in Florida. I can't sell in my house.
Nobody will buy it because I think the word's getting around. Now, I want to get down to something that Governor Glendenning shared with me, and I just decided I'd put this in here just in your honor, if nothing else. People do not like to walk where they feel uncomfortable. They want that buffer. These are the same two people. One's an engineer, one's a planner. I can't tell them apart. But one of these scenes works because they got the scale and the importance of separating the pedestrian from the danger, right? So, and again, talking about the big picture first. This street on the top is somewhere in Iowa. I'll protect it by not mentioning its name. But this is the way we used to build streets everywhere. We were following performance models and projections of how much traffic we need, and more traffic would serve, the more the economy would do in a healthy way. This is the way we're taking the same street with the same function today. And by the way, the lower street moves a lot more traffic. Strip out streets don't perform well. They cause a lot of horrific crashes. They only serve one mode, and they don't serve the land use effectively. So I'll take that one step further. The scene on the top is Missoula, Montana. With that style of land development, the land leases out somewhere between $5 and $15 per square foot. That's it. The lower one, this one happens to be the same type of street, but done better, is leasing out for anywhere from $30 to $65 a square foot. But the street has to be right in order to get the buildings to behave. That's what increases the land value. So the homes all properties, all buildings have to orient to the street. So let's go to the next level. I've been asked to make sure I do cover a number of very important topics in this closing. So I'm going to go through each one of these and build a little bit of a story around each thought. And truly it is all about change. How do we empower people? How do we get model projects on the ground? I am not a planner. I've never been trained as a planner. And by the way, just to be totally honest, I'm not an engineer. I'm not a landscape architect. I'm not an architect. I'm not any of the things you guys are. But I am a photographer. And I watch and I see, and I have the best mentors in the world. I really have. So your son or daughter would love to take a walk. They have to pass this space. Would you let them take a walk? They're, let's just say, 8 years old. No. What would you want? Sidewalks? Crossings too, right? What else? Trees? I'm glad you asked. But the most important thing you haven't asked for yet. What is it? Yeah, and to have people, you have to have security. The way you have security is your town code says you must have your homes watching over a schoolyard, a park, and so on. It's absolutely just fundamental. But now I'm going to take you some that have done it right. And this one, Manhattan Beach, is one of our Blue Zones communities. Now this is way before Blue Zones, but these homes are worth $2, $3, $7 million. Largely because of the layout of the street. This is the street. It's a pedestrian street. And to give you a little more depth, this is the backside of those same homes. And notice that everything orients to the public realm. There's actually very little yard in either one of these cases, but again, these homes are worth a fortune because people now want walkability. And we'll go through a couple more of this image. Now, I have no clue how the fire service addresses an emergency. I just have no clue. But I know they take care of it because they have to. They don't want a $7 million home burned down because they didn't have a plan. But I think the point is, if a resident could, they would prefer that they have a really nice place for their children to play, where everyone feels watched over, and things like that. Now, once you get out to the regular streets in the same neighborhood, there's not a chance for speed. In fact, I don't even know why the center line is there, other than to give you some reasonable guidelines of where you might want to be. but definitely not on one side or the other. You want to straddle it, correct? These are low-speed streets that are very successful in creating walkability. A newer development, again, notice the orientation of the homes, but the street has to behave for a developer to come in and be able to sell the homes. If the street misbehaves, they have no ability. This is the front side, the back side of the same buildings. Liner buildings, is that a new term here? How many of you are using the term liner buildings? Okay, I think this is the way we're going to rescue a lot of the places here in Worcester. Some of the places I've seen downtown have no eyes on the street. They offer no support. You could use the added retail and so on. These are liner buildings. They're only about 20 feet deep. Notice they're plopped down where we already had a suburban strip design. And this is getting a little closer. And now why it is so important, this is the connection to the ferry in Keystone, Washington. And truly, this is a retrofit. They're only 20 feet deep, but they actually work quite good to activate the space, put the eyes on the street, and really achieve what we want. Another town, this one, Lancaster, California. This is an area that was totally rescued with some of these buildings. And by the way, I don't know the actual retail, but this used to be an ugly 5-lane road. And today it's a beautiful 2-lane road with pianos in the middle of the street. It's one of those remarkable places. And I think the rents are going for $40, $45 a square foot. They're also putting lots of great new affordable housing right downtown. But again, it all was the remake of this street, which rewinds to a Main Street conference 20 years before, when I put up the challenge and they went over and had a couple beers and said, we're going to do what Dan says. They did it, and they're making huge money. Lancaster, which is in Los Angeles County or just outside, I'm not sure which. When we convert and bring something around, then we have to focus on character, history of the neighborhood, of the place. And by doing that, it allows the architect or the entire team to come together with what are the right ways to reflect the values and the issues and the actual history of a particular neighborhood. This is a fantastic turnaround in Petaluma, California. You can see how they're building the new buildings to reflect the materials, the various features of the community. And this helps overcome the fear of change. People don't want to leave their neighborhood, but they don't want the neighborhood to be completely different. So I think they've done a good job. A great friend of mine rescued the street on the right, turned it into the street on the left, but part of her chemistry or her magic was to keep the local shops. Now, 80% of the shops are brand new and they're very high-end retail, but she kept the neighborhood stores. And she retired on a $150,000 investment with $45 million. This is all she did. She rescued this block, later bought the next block, transformed it, bought the next block, transformed that. Each block she got $15 million out of the deal. But it was all focused around people. South Beach, Miami. This is the second block she bought. I think you can imagine what that looks like today. This is what the street looks like today. Again, it's focused around people first, not speed, and providing good access further back. And then, of course, she bought the third block and made the transition there and goes deep into the South Beach neighborhood. This is Espanola Way. Those of you who might have a trip in the future. It's a really good place. Now let's go to modern times. Seattle has a wonderful program they call Pavement to Parks. It's more than just a pop-up park. They start with a community event, find out what people would like in their neighborhood. Then they design it and put it on the ground. It's meant to stay on the ground for months, maybe even years. And then that gives the Parks and Recreation Department time to go ahead and budget for actually fully activating it as a park. And this is a very successful program. So go beyond just pop-up parks or plazas to actual neighborhood design places that in time become actual parks or a conversion of pavement to park. That's a project I had the great pleasure to work on in New Haven. After a child had been killed on this street, we went in and did a big community a neighborhood design. And the result, this is just, of course, like a photomorph, but the point is, it's now like this. With a small investment, I think it was $15,000 to do the workshop, they now have, I believe it came to $750,000 in Tiger grant. So they've actually done something like 16 projects because one woman went around and garnered the interest and support from her neighborhood. Another Blue Zones community, Naples, Florida. They still can do more, but think about taking out the center lines of streets. It's cheap. All you're doing is saving paint. But do put in edge stripes. Our recommendation is 18 feet in the center. So take out the center line. Now you can't do it on every road, but you can when the traffic volume are say under 6,000. Or up in Burlington, Vermont, they're doing them on College, which connects the downtown to the campus. They're doing them on what's got to be at least 10,000. But start with those numbers that work for you as a community. You'll see the speeds come down. You'll see the crashes come down. Walking goes up. Bicycling goes up as a result. I am going to recommend something we found very empowering. Again, this is all about implementing. How did we get there? Our organization led for the city of Honolulu 20 technical walking audits. They were half day long each. As part of our work, we would also redesign an intersection, a whole street corridor, whatever it was called for. After all of that, we had trained 6 agencies working together so that they all spoke the same language. Then we decided to lead what we call mobile study tours. They're 3 days in length, typically. And we brought all the top elected leaders and planners and engineers from Hawaii to the Pacific Northwest, all paid for with health monies. There's that liaison or partnership. And the health monies that were spent were tobacco monies. To change people's lifestyle, we now have over 80 people in Hawaii who are now reactivating all of the wonderful little cities to big cities in Hawaii to become walkable. So we're using strategies to get more and more people trained and engaged. We also have found how important it is to do advocacy training. So in our beaches communities, the Blue Zones, we brought together something like 45 people and spent a full day with some of the best advocates in America teaching advocacy skills. And this included, by the way, in that particular community, the top 3 executives of the top 3 network channels, the original channels. But I think the point is, these are the things that really start to bring the change. Are some or many or all of your committees now complete streets? You have resolutions? How many do? Okay, fair number, but it looks like we have more ground to cover. Yeah? Okay, so for those of you who aren't into the complete streets movement as yet, there's no such thing as a complete streets design. It's a philosophy and it's an approach to be flexible in our street making, but I want to share with you what some of the more powerful tools are. I'm going to start by taking that marriage between land use and transportation. This is a development that I got to work on in Loma Linda, California. The upper street is called Mission Drive. It used to be a very fast road, 50 miles an hour. But in working with the developer, number one, we wanted a lot of parks. And again, congratulations to Worcester for having so many places people can go to. And by the way, an important part of neighborhood parks is if children have access to neighborhood parks, you can cut your obesity rate in half just with that alone, with programming in the parks. That's part of it. So we wanted the parks nearby, largely because they raise the value of every property. And but we wanted the street, the one on top, to be low speed, So we put a lot of design into that street because that's where the mansions live. Historically, people have wanted to showcase their homes. They want them on the highest volume street. Hasn't been true for 50 years, but the best homes are truly greeting the very best street. We also insisted on connectivity. I think you can see where we recommend, and this is just a walking connection, but by doing this and one street connection, that allowed the developer to go and put his next development in and truly keep traffic from going out onto the principal street. Just a couple of key points. I want to share with you these two streets because they're the same street. The pictures were taken on the same day. So the older area of the neighborhood with trees, and then the newer area of the neighborhood without trees. And truly, the speeds vary by about 5 to 15 miles per hour. And now think about that. How critical it is to have street trees to bring back the value of neighborhoods and the livability, walkability, and so on. These streets, by the way, are only 20 feet wide, but they're both the same. It is the same street, just a different portion of the neighborhood. I am a strong proponent for setting a default lane width, statewide if you can, at no more than 10-foot lanes. And then give yourselves permission. You have heavy industrial traffic or curbs or whatever. Go up to 11 or even 12, but start with your default always at 10. And by doing that, you're going to have more room to do everything. New England streets in general are fairly compact, built out, so every foot you can grab is a bonus to you. These are going to be some examples. West Palm Beach around 1994 looked like this. Anyone who had any ability to flee the town had. This is where they filmed the big documentaries on drugs in America. They could have done the documentaries on prostitution, anything you could name that wasn't something you want. Mayor Nancy Graham came together, created the charrette. I got to be part of it. This is the same street about 8 years later. It's remarkable. Part of the success, take out all the lanes that you can and narrow the rest of the lanes. So Ian Lockwood, the same cartoonist, who is a sharp professional engineer, made all these changes. He was in charge, narrowed down the streets from 36 feet to 20 in this case. And here's the bonus. Obviously, it's better for a person walking or biking. It's a bonus for the driver. Now, when the pedestrian crosses the street, there's less downtime because the pedestrian only needs, a fewer number of seconds to get across the street so it can go green again for the motorist on the freeway. This is a federal road. It's an important federal road. So we're putting these things into practice. Olympia, Washington, I think you can see how a mega-sized bus fits in a 10-foot lane. It's tight. Who cares? They're not up against the curb, and they're going to drive with a little more caution, and they're going to drive better. They're going to drive safer. Every 10-foot lane we get in, it seems to have a small, but still a progressive movement toward safety. Road diets. This is a road that was formerly 4 lanes. We took it down to 3. These are 10-foot lanes again. You can see how a normal-sized car fits in a 10-foot lane and creates the buffer or separation to the pedestrian. Now think about bike lanes not for bicyclists. Think about bike lanes for 22 benefits only to are for bicyclists. Look at the pedestrian in this case, further buffered from moving traffic. Think of the driver turning into or out of a driveway, more turning radius, more sight lines coming out. The list just goes on and on and on and on. I cannot imagine any principal street that doesn't either have bike lanes or low-speed traffic. One of my favorite projects, and one of my very first outside of the state of Florida, is University Place, which, by the way, has no university and has no place. And but they had a terrible road, 5 lanes, and we did a workshop. Within 300 days, this was on the ground. They were ready to move. This has now become one of the showcase streets for the entire state of Washington. Much better for walking, biking, transit, and driving. And now they have a place. They built the city hall right here. They have a Trader Joe's right over here. and a Whole Foods over on the other corner. None of those corporations would have moved to this town with the previous design road. Think about that. So we're real pleased when we start to make the changes, how it impacts real estate, health, safety, access to food, all of these things, by just very careful thought. And again, this is a town probably of 40,000 now that had no sidewalks except for maybe 1 mile before we arrived. Now, every principal street has sidewalks except for 1 mile, and that's to be finished yet this year. So it shows you that this isn't something for your grandchildren, it's something that you yourself can enjoy. So just after the project was completed, and 9 years later. I want to also talk about complete streets in terms of flexibility. This is a Telluride, very, very high altitude town in Colorado. They get 9 feet of snow accumulation, right? I think both of these are what I would call a complete street, just the way they are. Largely because of the traffic volume, the fact that there's nowhere to store the snow, and that the upper section is going to have even less traffic. That works. In the lower section, likewise. And simply there isn't enough space to put in a sidewalk. I don't have a sidewalk in front of my house because there is no space. I'm on a hillside slope, but I'm in the heart of our town. And I will count about 10 times more people walking or biking than I count cars because of the good street grid and so on. Again, talking about how much flexibility we need, the upper neighborhood in Houston, all the great showcase homes, you can see there, the value of the real estate there is just off the charts. A lower street of the same category, a collector street, based on the way we're building them today, which is profoundly stupid, right? Kills people. But it also kills real estate. What developer in their right mind would ever front a home on this street? So think about that. As we rewrite our street design guidelines and what we build, we're either going to kill the economy or we're going to rescue the economy based on the design of the street. It always comes first. Getting back to Ian Lockwood again. Olive Avenue, again, a federal aid road, used to be 5 lanes. He knocked it down to just 2 lanes. Within a year, every home within a quarter mile of either side, a whole half-mile homes times 2.5 mile length of this corridor, every home went up $110,000 minimum. Because now they had a street that they could call a true neighborhood street. Now obviously the motorist wins because the children are only going to occupy the street a much shorter period of time than back when it was 5 lanes. Bring us a little closer to home, Providence. They've been working certainly in the downtown on curb extensions, this is a slightly domed circle. I think I would call it a mini circle. A lot of brickwork, but certainly now designing for people. Somebody's going to have to teach somebody how to park, but other than that, you know. I want to talk a little bit about roundabouts. I happen to be a strong fan of roundabouts. Not rotaries, not circles, but roundabouts. And I know New England is becoming a leader in true roundabouts. Started up in Vermont, but it's been spreading. Both of these are in Maui, upcountry area we call. A 2-lane road will max out around 25,000 vehicles a day. Now that's a lot of traffic. But it will only carry that much traffic if you add the added lanes at the intersection. The same neighborhood actually, with a roundabout, is able to handle 25,000 cars in less space and move 30 to 40% more traffic per lane. And so the numbers support roundabouts, but so do real estate values and prices, and so do items of pedestrian safety. Again, sticking with New England, very, very narrow streets, especially like if it's a one-way. Why have more than 14 feet? There's no benefit. And so as we take the walk tomorrow, we're going to talk a lot about if something could be improved or if it's already perfect. Another tool that I'm told it's called the Rondell. I still think of it as a mini roundabout, but this one will handle any size vehicle making any kind of turn, and it handles, again, the volume clear up to 25,000. They've done it with mostly just a little bit of texture and color, and again, very friendly for pedestrians compared to what the alternative would be. In Manitou Springs, Colorado, deep snow country. I couldn't get a roundabout to fit, but we did a road diet, and some genius came in and said, "No, Dan, we can do it." And so they did a slightly raised space. So this again can handle huge fire equipment or semi-tractor trailers on that rare occasion they need to just go right across. This one I'm very proud of, lake effect snows, Hamburg, New York. We took care of the redesign of 3 of their principal streets through Main Street. And before they were really struggling as a town, they were rated number 12 out of 12 villages in their region. And so we came in, we worked with the New York DOT, took out 4 signals and put in all roundabouts. Here's the cool thing. Motors are getting to their destinations in less time because they never stop. And New York DOT was so proud of this, they entered this into a contest with AASHTO, the American Association of State Highway Transportation Officials, and won 2nd place in America. This is the 2nd best design for that year for the entire nation. And the profound results are it's safer, easier to get in and out of your parking. That is not a marked bike lane. It's just too narrow for that, but we call it a transition lane because we wanted 10-foot lanes. And yeah, it is 9 foot from paint to paint, but the point is this is a big regional truck route. And so here's a worst case scenario. Truck drivers love it because they never need to stop. And it still works for their needs. Now that 8.5 foot truck fully fills a 9 foot lane. What's the problem? They're getting through town in less time, less delay. We did have to really turn on our thinking caps. Normally the central island is 62.5 feet. We had to shrink it and shrink it and shrink it some more to get the big trucks to be able to make left-hand turns through here, but they did it. The net result of all this design is that they certainly increased the retail street sales about 30%, but they also, instead of pulling 9 building permits per year, they're pulling 99. And again, very walkable, very friendly, no delay for pedestrians, and obviously much safer than the previous design. Hartford, New York, we did all of their neighborhood traffic calming with net reductions in crashes anywhere from 20 to 60%, mostly through road diets. And again, the principles, the tools that are available in one part of New England are across the board. Now, another favorite, this is a 78-foot crossing in the previous condition, and the business would just falter constantly. We were asked to go in, we worked with the neighborhood, got them to ask for the treatment, and this is the net result. We took out all the lanes except for 2. We had to handle 23,000 cars. That's a pretty high number. But you can see how much more pedestrian and business friendly it is. We went from this scene, I believe this is the exact same block, to this scene. Further down, we went from this scene to this actual scene. These are not photomorphs, this is the actual real deal. These are tools that didn't exist 20 years ago. Some of them didn't exist 7 years ago. Oh, by the way, another example of where we used what we call a transition lane. To move 23,000 cars, you can't have people backing out and pulling in constantly. So we created this transition lane so traffic could keep flowing. Now we're learning how to combine tools in tight, narrow spaces to get the results that we see. This wonderful little town in Ohio, halfway between Cleveland and Akron, wants to grab all of their trade. They're the real deal. They have all these historic buildings on, but they were running out of places. So they built this block brand new $1 million just for the street. And they anchored a grocery store at the end. And now they're grabbing a lot of trade from Akron and Cleveland because of historic design. The way they built this for walkability. And I really want to say that I have seen some of the very best tools in the nation here in New England. It's really figuring out which ones will fit, which ones will help replenish a neighborhood, bring down speed, start to focus on what people really want, really need, more green, less paving, and slower speed. So round out with a few more tools in Cambridge. I don't know if I'm allowed to talk about Cambridge. Oh, good, because it's one of my favorite places in America. Look how they tightened down the speed on this corner, or this entire intersection. Traffic is more predictable. Sight lines are much improved by just making it more walkable and more friendly. Again, I hate to go back to University Place, but this is another road worth sharing. They increase all the home values for long distances, but as a result of really slowing down the speeds. I believe there are 9 roundabouts on this particular road. They work beautifully in the series. And again, I think you'll see a common theme in what I'm presenting to you is that everything is about smaller, more compact, invite more development. And again, the array of tools is amazing. Back in Engle Park, do you have that in Massachusetts yet? Yep. It's pretty popular where it's being put in? Oh, okay. Different ways to do it. I do want to mention target speed. This is probably one of the most important phrases that we can introduce in the vernacular. You set the speed that's appropriate for an area in order to bring things about. And as you go through, you begin to realize different features will bring additional slowing and additional movement. The end result here, we take the signal, we keep the traffic moving. I think I just, oh, we okay? Okay. And now I want to close on this. Newport's one of my favorite towns. There are a lot of things that were done really, really well because for a long period of time, nobody was rebuilding anything in Newport. And that's another truism. The less the town's been touched by modern engineers, and I'm not blaming the profession at all, but I am saying that they were trained, instructed, and became very good at what they were asked to do. We asked them to do it. So this is the community in 1878. Look at that wonderful grid pattern, street connections, what Newport became over time. Every town made mistakes. This is Newport today. Admiral Way, I believe, is the principal road through there. I'm recommending a road diet. Right now, when a pedestrian goes across the street, and they are flooded with pedestrians, when the pedestrian goes across the street, they have to hold back the motorists for a long time. So if they took out the signals, put in roundabouts, did the true road diet, they would manage the traffic better and truly give an added boost to the economy. They also put a shopping center in probably the worst possible place it could have done it. Everybody's made that mistake. But I think the point is that you've got the great historic streets here in Worcester for sure. Most Massachusetts towns I've worked in, it's just really now, just like in the game of chess, the one who wins is the one who makes the fewest number of mistakes. And I think that today people are going to seek out more and more of those great places where they would like to live, where they would like to bring their small company. The future is about small companies. But just a plug for tomorrow, I feel the answer, the secret is truly about getting people out, take them for a walk, show them, have them tell you what they care for the most and what they'd like to see change. That's how we're going to bring about the consensus building. We call that process informed consent. But it's got to start from the grassroots up. If we're going to keep our best leaders, we have to give them all the support when it comes to asking for a change. I want to thank you for this opportunity. It's been a great experience for me. And I just expect nothing but great things from every one of your towns. Thank you.